Welcome to another episode of T-Dub's Film Room, brought to you by thebarnauburn.com. We've got a nice little show for you tonight. It's going to be the Kentucky preview, but in my mind, this is an Auburn versus Auburn matchup. So what we got to look at is, I think, the offense and the quarterback position, and if it's going to be any different or any better or any worse. So let's get right to it. All right, so I actually want to start on the defensive side of the ball because there's a couple of things that I don't know, maybe you think are interesting. I think they're interesting. It's pieces of DJ Durkin's scheme, pieces of a kind of chronic or continual like game plan that he'll employ, especially on third down. And so we'll watch this play right here. And what I want you to kind of pay attention to, first off, it's essentially a three-man rush. All right, even though it looks like we're bringing a lot of heat, it's a three-man rush with a spy, and then we're playing basically a type of zone coverage where we sort of have like a 3/4. It's almost like, I would almost call this like a 3 cloud to the field type deal. But the interesting part to me is I'm going to call this like a flush, all right? Because we're intentionally just saying, hey, all of our defensive rushers here, we want them to just absolutely sell out to the field, all right, to the larger part of the field here, to flush the quarterback to the boundary to activate our spy. And Arkansas kind of, I think, his game plan for this. This is not the first time we've ever done this. And he's essentially going to try to pick up the spy. But Xavier Atkins, a guy who's just having an enormous year and had a huge game here against Arkansas, he does such a good job not only of kind of playing this thing out correctly, understanding when to trigger on this, but that little fake right here, that kind of nuanced fake from Taylor Green, obviously a great athlete right here. All right, it would have been really easy for him to just kind of break down and miss this, but he stays on it, wraps him up, and takes him to the ground. Just a really good play by Xavier Atkins. It's a really consistent concept by Durkin on the defensive side of the ball, and it's something I actually really like. I'm going to show you a couple other things. All right, so this isn't necessarily the exact same deal. All right, you can kind of see, we're still rushing 3. He's got man on the back probably, and then Kieron Crawford's your spy. Now, this is from last season, all right? This is from Fernando Mendoza. But this is a good example, 3rd and 9, so a similar situation of really almost the exact play that I'm talking about. You see him kind of, shift his hips to get ready to throw, and this really messes Crawford up here, who's our spy, misses the tackle, and it allows Mendoza to convert that first down. My point in showing this is that since Durkin has been the defensive coordinator at Auburn, I've kind of picked out some things that, I can tell that he really likes. This is one of them. And it's just like our defense is better than it was last year, and they're finding the pieces of the puzzle, like Atkins being the spy as opposed to somebody like a Crawford and that kind of thing. Riddick obviously did a pretty good job of this for Auburn last season. But it's just something, I remember us giving up the third downs on that same type of concept last year. I just wanted to reference that. All right, just because I noticed it again, same concept here. Look, this is 1st and 10, so it's a different situation. I think with their personnel grouping here, it's whatever. Maybe for whatever reason, obviously it looks like we were anticipating them to, at least run some type of drop back here, even though it's essentially 11 personnel with the tight end. They motion the back out. But again, sort of that flush and spy again with the kind of some type of zone coverage behind it, maybe quarters, something like that. But again, blocked in here, I think in this case, we're not necessarily like hard flushing. Maybe it's like a two-way go for him so he can go inside because he knows Atkins here is the spy. But again, another example, one of Blockton doing a nice job. All right, active hands, that kind of thing, getting the holding call. And then Atkins just cleaning this thing up again. Like the open field tackle there, that is just not an easy thing to do. Like that's a pretty good move there. By Taylor Green, and something that could cause a lot of people to miss the tackle. So Atkins was just a monster, and again, just looking at Durkin's scheme a little bit. All right, so defensively, other than just being really good, giving up a couple big plays that were interesting, like some fullback and tight end plays there, but really defensively, other than just being really good, those interceptions, the forced fumble in the second half, those were huge plays, but the topic of the conversation here has to be Auburn's offense and the quarterback play, specifically in the passing game as a whole, right? And even maybe for this game against Arkansas and how we're going to look at, how Auburn's potentially going to do against Kentucky and the rest of the way, the red zone offense. And so that's what we're really going to focus on for the most part of this video. So this is a 3rd and 4, in the red zone, 25-yard line. I'd call it the red zone. And this is actually a good example. So you got pre-snap motion here, all right? So you're making the defense sort of show their hand, right? In this case, obviously, we're going man coverage for sure. All right, well, here with the sprint out, we know this outside receiver, his job essentially is to run a clear out, or in this case, if it's man coverage, do your best job to, interfere with this defender without getting called for interference. That's essentially the job there of the outside receiver when it's, mud or man coverage, that kind of thing. So this is good, all right? I'm going to show you a bunch more examples. All right, same drive, 3rd and 11 in the red zone again, and this is bad, all right? One, it's the set. We run this exact set. Like, I would love to chart it out. I'm not going to do it. It would take too much time. But we run this exact set a ton. I mean, potentially like over 50% of our offensive snaps seems like it's in this exact set. So this is 3rd and 11. And what are we doing? We're essentially running patterns, that break and stop at the sticks. I mean, even down here, I kind of like this little, post, but the thing that I don't like in the boundary is if you're going to run this, it would be great if you had something to occupy this hook curl defender, maybe pull him out so that you can widen out this zone behind it. Here, he doesn't have a threat, so he can just kind of mark this guy and stay with it. So essentially, the only option here, because it ends up essentially breaking out into, quarters and 2, is the one-on-one matchup here with the corner running inside leverage and a outbreaking route with a wet field with Jackson Arnold that doesn't seem like he's able to get a ton on that ball. Maybe, again, because it's wet footing. Maybe it's just arm strength in general. But this is just a super low percentage play. And again, you're telling Malcolm Simmons just run into your guy and then sit at the sticks. And then you've got a kind of a block delayed release here from the tight end. So I don't like this schematically at all. It's not creative. It's I really think when we get behind like this, it's kind of like, well, we're behind. We're not even going to try to do anything to make that yardage up. Let's just, run our best play that's safe and then kick a field goal. Bad for me on this one. All right, you might know what this one is. 2nd and 8 here going in. Got about a minute left. All right. Much was made about this play. This is the pick 6, okay? Yes, you could have given this ball off. No problem. You essentially got a hat on a hat here in the box. Yes, they are lining up in a, too high look. Now, the problem here with me is this safety does kind of creep into the box here. Well, Jackson's not looking at this safety. Jackson's looking at this safety. And if this safety's getting depth and width, you have to assume that this corner has the ability to trigger on a hitch or a flat route, right? And so, look, after this, Jackson got pulled, and by all means, he probably should have. This is just an example of just like not seeing it. If that safety gets depth and width, his eyes are here, there's no way you're throwing this. You're just, take the give here, and if it's 3rd and 5, it's 3rd and 5. You could have had the hitch down here maybe, because again, if this guy is sinking into the box, then he has to respect, his deep third here essentially. But in this case, yeah, just a really bad decision, and that's why they pulled Jackson. So let's look at what Ashton Daniels did. All right, so I believe first drive of the second half here, so we're in the red zone. Pretty good drive to this point. And essentially, we're going to look at these next 3 plays because these are the 3 plays that, are what Auburn does not execute in order to convert this into a touchdown. I don't hate this. It's a one-on-one shot. It's first down. You've got, 2 more plays after this to get 8 yards. I don't hate it. It's definitely the right decision in terms of, you're not going to throw this screen to the boundary here. You're going to take the one-on-one to the field. So, look, maybe Ashton gets more reps in practice this week. I don't hate the decision or whatever. It's just obviously extremely, poorly executed, not even close. The only thing I'd say here is, maybe there's some better thing we can do. He's got outside leverage, right? So is there not some conversion that we can make into this that maybe he breaks right here and you try to fit it in that window, something like that? But at the end of the day, it's a one-on-one. If this is Cam, it makes a lot more sense as well at the end of the day, and hopefully he's healthy. But that's play 1. All right, play 2 is essentially, now again, I said that set earlier, right? The twins with the wing tied in and the running back to that side. We're just going to, again, kind of suck it up, run it. Again, I mean, a good run, but you're still going to set yourself up with a 3rd down here, 3rd and 4, something like that, 3rd and goal. So we'll look at that play in just a second. All right, now, I actually don't hate this. Essentially, we're just going to run like a mesh concept. At the end of the day, essentially, that's what we're doing. Now, it looks like our first read's here, and we don't like it. But the way this is going to break out, Preston's just going to block this dude. Essentially, that they're going to try to pass this thing off. And Malcolm, if you hit it right here, and we don't necessarily like this, our true freshman center's kind of getting beat, but we can hit it right here, and this is going to be a touchdown. And again, look, it's condensed area. It's the red zone. It is what it is. But like, if we actually want to, level up our game offensively, this isn't a terrible play call here. And honestly, you've got what you want. And there's really no reason for us to evacuate the pocket at this point when we do. So if Ashton can kind of go here, all right, I don't like that, but then I go to my next read, all right, bang, we're good here. Even if he just kind of takes a little slide step and hits this thing right here, we've got a touchdown. It's pretty easy. But instead, we kind of evacuate the pocket. Again, stuff that we kind of hated on Jackson for. It's like his back's turned to you, just throw this thing in there. I mean, why not? This is a really actually conservative decision and throw here, unless he's in your way, but I don't see that being the case. So I would love to see him give Perry a shot here and just see what happens. Probably gonna be incomplete, but this, he's not gonna get in here anyway. So at this point, we kick a field goal. All right, here's another red zone. A few plays here to see why we don't, actually convert this into a touchdown. I definitely don't hate this. I mean, this is going to essentially break out into a post and then kind of an out and up, which in this area is like a fine, concept and design. And I would assume this safety is going to get occupied with Cam. I would assume that's what's happening here. Obviously, that's his read. And, you could have probably given this a shot here, but he's not loving it. The check down's not there. Pulls down because he knows his clock's ticking. He sees our tight end here who's open and, gets rid of the ball. I don't really necessarily hate this from anybody. Obviously, it's like at some point, man, we just got to start letting stuff rip. And obviously, Ashton did hit the shot to Singleton later, which, we'll look at. But that's play one of this sequence. All right, play two, we get in our little comfortable set here and run the counter. Now, this is something, I don't care. I don't think anybody's going to be watching this to really pay attention, but we love the wing or the two tight end set, and what we love to do is we love to put the inline or on the ball tight end and the wing on the same side, and that's when we run like our zone or our duo game. When we put the wing opposite the on the ball tight end, that's signaling counter. A lot of times that's what we're doing. We're going to run counter to the on the ball tight end and allow the wing back to be off the ball so he gets this cleaner look here when he's going to try to wrap up inside. But 2nd and 6, we're trying to just get it closer to 3rd and short. That's what we're doing here. 3rd down. All right, now, I don't hate this play call. Now, the clock's ticking. It's like somebody's just got to know. And, of course, I don't hate not burning a timeout here early in the 2nd half. This play call is going to be a decent one. Obviously, you don't love sending your right-handed quarterback on the move to the left, and this is going to be some kind of sprint out concept. So I'd love to have seen more of this breakout to see what the actual routes were. Don't hate that call necessarily. But then, of course, now we get backed up in 3rd and 10, and I hate this play call. All right, what did we do earlier? We're running some sticks. I call it sticks when you're basically telling everybody to just run to the sticks and then sit down. And look, it's all the hitches and the curl flats and all the stuff that we've talked about. If you watch this thing play out, man, it's like this is what we're doing. Boom, 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 boom. And the funny thing is everybody's kind of at different depths, meaning that this guy's probably supposed to be shorter, right? Which is probably why we don't like this. But if you just think about this straight up conceptually, you're going to have 4 guys on the pattern because the back's into block. You're going to have 7 guys in coverage, all right? And you're already talking about a condensed area of the field in the red zone. So you're going to have 4 of our guys and 7 of their guys. And if all you're doing is running 10 yards and sitting down, you're shrinking that area even more. And, you're not making these dudes work at all. I mean, they're running quarters here. This is birds on a wire, as we used to say. This is like doves on a power line. They can just sit right there, and you're just going to run right into them. We're not making them communicate. We're not making them pass things off. We're not, do some kind of switch release and then run the sit down, something like that. Like, if you're really that stuck on it, why can't he go out and he go in and then they both sit down? At least make these guys work a little bit. This just absolutely kills me. It's a stupid play design. It's a stupid play call. It hasn't worked all year. And now everybody wants a targeting, this kind of stuff. And it's like, quit waiting on the refs to bail your guys out. Draw some stuff up in the red zone it's not stupid. That's my opinion. All right, now I said I'd let you guys see the shot play because it's fun. First off, same set, right? Wing tight end and back to the same size as the Twins. I mean, we're in this set all the time. There's not a lot of pre-snap motion. Like, this is just what we do, and then we're running the RPO and all that kind of stuff, okay? But good play design, okay? You essentially are hoping for quarters down here, and that makes a lot of sense because you've got Cam Coleman in the game at this point as essentially a decoy. If they're going to cloud this side or kind of run, essentially this is cover 2, all right? You're going to cloud. You're going to run quarters to this side. And look, that's going to give you one-on-one opportunities with Singleton. So as long as this safety is occupied by the slot receiver here, Perry, Then you've got one-on-one with the post to Eric Singleton. In this case, the good thing about this is Ashton's letting it ride. You've got a receiver here. You've got the defender on his back. If you put this thing inside and low, which is essentially what we're doing, you're giving your receiver, you know, a decent chance to make this play. The receiver does a really good job, Singleton here, of keeping the defender on his back, maintaining his leverage, and then just going up and making a great catch. So the point of this, really more than anything, is at least Ashton's letting it rip. Singleton didn't have his man beat necessarily, right? He just had him on his back, and then you throw the ball based on the defender's leverage and hope that your receiver maintains what he has, and he did in that case. So good job by Ashton by at least just letting it rip. All right, here's another look at our red zone stuff. Okay, we're from the 9, 1st and goal. Look at our set. Same exact set, no? I mean, I'm not making this up. I legitimately think it's over 50% of the time. I'm never going to chart this out, that we are in this set. All right, so this one gets on my nerves a little bit because, all right, in the post game and everything, Hugh was saying he had Malcolm wide open, which is true, all right? But the problem is like, all right, well, we're looking over here, and we're not really looking like in this direction. I mean, I think right here we kind of are. And then for whatever reason, maybe he thinks this guy's just going to be able to pop back out, you know, and I'm not sure. And look, and maybe in this case, if his eyes stayed here and he pulls it, maybe he is going to pop out to this, okay? So maybe it's a little bit of like revisionist history a little bit. But my thing here is like, all right, well, I mean, if he's an option and he's an option and theoretically Singleton's an option and you have the option to give the ball, what are you telling your quarterback? Like, what is your first and second? What is your progression? You can't just say, hey, read the field and pick the receiver that's open. That's like not how it works. You have to have some sort of a systematic read progression or something to say, hey, if you see this, then do this, right? Well, I mean, if Hugh is saying that Malcolm was wide open, I don't think our quarterbacks are being taught the right thing to look at the right time. That's my opinion, because I don't think, you know, you can't have a guy this open, all right, hold this thing, ride it out, and then pop that thing over the middle. That's too easy. You can't have this guy that open if we're teaching our quarterbacks to be looking for that in this situation. The only thing I hate here is Singleton's wide open. I get why Ashton threw it to Malcolm at this point. He's got this guy like chasing him down who's faster than him. It's you know, he's just doing his best, and Malcolm was probably open at that time. But at the end of the day, it's like, all right, Hugh wants to say that, you know, Malcolm was open and we missed him. Well, then we need to do a better job of coaching our quarterbacks. All right, so here we go. Second goal. We missed the first down, so a run's going to come here to try to get it 3rd and shorter, which really doesn't even help you that much. You know, when you're inside the 10, it's like, all right, well, now we got to convert from 3rd and 5 instead of, you know, 3rd and 9. It doesn't really, it actually condenses the space and can make it a little bit more difficult. So here's our 3rd down play call. Now, I wanted to point this out, all right? And maybe, again, if somebody saw this, this would not be great. But what this is, let me go back a little more. Follow. You see him say follow? So I saw that live, and I was like, okay, maybe we're running like some sort of a drag and then a follow behind it, like an actual drop back scheme. That could be a great play call in this case. So that, you know, that scenario might be like, you know, maybe, and this is a bad situation, but so maybe if you had another receiver out here, all right, and Cam runs the drag, and then he runs like he's running out and then runs a follow behind him. That's kind of what I thought we were going to do. But all this is an RPO. We're going to conservatively run the ball, all right, to kind of take the decision making out of the play caller's hands. To say, hey, look, man, if you need to run it, run it. And the follow is here, and I really don't hate this either. This is kind of nice. So what this is Cam can maintain inside leverage, and Singleton's going to follow. That makes it really hard on this DB. And honestly, I mean, you probably could have had this here. But, you know, we're playing conservative, and we're just going to hand this thing off and, you know, hope for a magical touchdown on the run. Now, it's 4th and goal, and I think this is actually something that benefits us. We get some kind of procedure, snap infraction, something like that, and makes us kick a field goal. And I think that's a good thing, because I don't see us scoring on this play call based on what they have. So if you just think about this right here, all right, he's going to be one-on-one here. All right, and that's a true freshman tight end. You've got Jeremiah Cobb that has to lead basically here. And then you've got him flowing over the top with Singleton racing to the pylon. That's an iffy one for me. So I think it's actually a good thing that we had the snap infraction, kick the field goal, keep a little bit of like the momentum and the positive vibes. Because if we get stuffed on 4th down there, you know, I mean, who knows what happens. All right, so that was a lot of like the red zone look, and this is actually the last thing we'll look at, and this is just like, this is a good thing. All right, we're gonna fake kind of the whatever, you know, blink motion, whatever you want to call this, and what we're gonna get is information from the defense. We used to call this DID, defense ID, and this is a lot of the times why you want to run pre-snap motion. We talked about it earlier. That clearly tells us it's man-to-man, and it tells us who is covering the back, right? And then the play call here is a decent one. It's going to be essentially a swing. Now, one thing I think is interesting is it's a swing, but instead of having two receivers blocking, you actually have a guy here releasing like on the wheel. At some point, that'd be a great thing to try to hit over the top. But Perry does a pretty good job here blocking. The good thing when it's man-to-man is when you can bring two with you, right? So you can bring your man and then go block somebody else when it's man-to-man, and that's essentially what happens here. You know, good little swing out there, and then Jeremiah Cobb doing a really good job trying to stay in bounds and trying to just get extra yardage. But I just think, you know, this is the type of stuff, like, we just need to do more of this. Like, have a have a play call with pre-snap motion where we dictate to the defense what's going to happen, where we practice an offensive concept versus all the different looks that the defense might give us for this situation. That way we call the play and we run it and we execute it no matter what the defense is doing, as opposed to we're going to line up in this stationary set. We're going to look around and we're going to say, okay, well, that's what the defense is doing pre-snap, and I'm assuming this is what's going to happen post-snap. And then when it's post-snap, I have the RPO option, and I've got different route concepts called, and then I've got to read this safety here, and then I've got to make this decision to hand the ball off or to sling it out there. And me and my receivers have to be on the same page. It's like, man, let's just dictate some stuff to the defense as opposed to letting the defense dictate everything to us. That's one thing that I hope for more stuff moving forward, and, you know, we'll kind of see what happens. But I thought that was maybe a decent look at like some of the red zone stuff. At the end of the day, I don't really have an opinion on what's necessarily good and bad. I don't really have an opinion on what I expect to happen against Kentucky. At this point, it's like, you know, are the coaches dead men walking? Is it, you know, I don't know. All I know is that things need to get better. And let me show you one thing real quick before we go. All right, now look, I hate Alabama. All right, I know nobody really wants to do this, right? But the point is like when you watch too much of Auburn only and you don't watch other stuff, you don't have like a reference point of what other people are doing. So look, this is, you know, the drive of the game that Alabama has to have. It was a long drive. They have some double motion here. All right, everybody's got to get set for a second. Now look, they've got to punch this thing in and they've got to get a 2-point conversion. Okay, now look, that went backwards. All right, but you at least had some pre-snap motion, you know, doing some things, make the defense communicate, but it went backwards 100%, right? All right. It's a gotta have it drive. It's a gotta have it moment. All right, what do? We motion that you can see there. He stops and waits, and then you get a little pre-snap motion here by Jeremy Bernard in the backfield. All right, and then what do we do? And we've looked at that. We've looked at this before. When the running back is opposite or goes opposite into the flat, it is hard on a defense. Okay, because essentially this is man on the running back, and like he's lost, and they draw up a wide open walk-in touchdown. They draw it up, okay? And they use pre-snap motion, and they use a little bit of, you know, trickery, and they use a good, like, fundamental scheme, a good concept to draw this thing up to get a touchdown when they have to have it. Now, they have to have the 2-point conversion as well, right? So what do? Do they run an RPO, or do they run just like a quarterback run? No. They shift, they snap the ball direct to the running back, hand it off to Ty Simpson, who's going to fake the reverse, and then toss it out to the tight end in the flat here. All right, who's going to kind of block and then release. Okay, now I know this is a 2-point conversion. That's a little bit different, all right? Let me show you one more, and it'll kind of hammer the point home. All right, 3rd and 10, coming out of a timeout, all right? You've got to have a field goal here if you're Alabama. They've got no timeouts. All right, what you're really trying to do more than anything is make sure you get more yards. Okay, fine. Well, what are we doing? Well, are we running like an RPO and sitting in the same formation and, you know, whatever, just same old look, same stuff? No, we're going to put Jeremy Bernard in the backfield with Ty Simpson out here, run a super condensed set. We're going to fake the reverse with kind of a pin and pull look. Now, look, they do give this thing up, okay, because they have to at this point. Like once he kind of broke out here and got a first down, you've got to just let him go and score a touchdown to give yourself any chance. The point is like, look, red zone offense is hard. All right, it's hard. The space is condensed. It is what it is. Yes, would everybody love to just run the ball and run RPOs and let the fact that like your offensive line, your running backs just, you know, convert for you and you don't have to draw anything up creative or, you know, make any hard decisions or whatever? Yes, that would be ideal. But like everybody else isn't doing that. And teams like Alabama who have a lot of talent aren't doing that because it's hard. When it's 3rd and 10, when they have to have conversions and stuff like that, are they just running this, you know, based up? No, they're drawing stuff up to try to give their players chances to make plays. So I think more than anything, what I'd like to see, and I'll get Alabama off right now. All right, so the point is that it's hard. I want to see us like do some things in the red zone. Our red zone offense is terrible in terms of converting in touchdowns. Let's try some stuff. Let's do something that's not so vanilla. You know, draw something up that works. Have a weekly kind of game plan as far as, hey, you know, take our 3 play callers. I'm joking, of course. Take our 1st down and 2nd down and 3rd down game planners, and, you know, instead of one guy having 1st down and 2nd down, give somebody 1st and 2nd down and give somebody 3rd down, and then let somebody else take the red zone. Like, focus solely on the red zone and make sure that if we get down there inside the 20 or whatever, let's get a touchdown out of it. So that's what I'd like to see more than anything. On the Kentucky side, you know, at the end of the day, this is Auburn versus Auburn. Kentucky's the worst team in the SEC. They've got some good personnel on defense. They do a few things on offense, but like Auburn's better, so no real point in focusing that much on Kentucky. Auburn has to win this game to keep some sliver of hope alive, and then we'll look at Vanderbilt and go from there. But yeah, as always, thank you guys for watching. We'll be back next week. Go to barn.com, or go to roback.com, use barn20. That code is still active, and get 20% off your order over at roback.com. But I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching. War Eagle.